So I have two interesting lenses today, the 28 to 400 and the 24 to 120 f4. Some will think that they are not comparable, but a lot of you will think that they could be comparable. A lot of people who are looking for an all-around high quality lens for most situations, indoor or outdoor, a lot of people actually think now that you have these two lenses, which one makes more sense. So there are two things to it. Of course, you want to understand which one is more useful to you. At the same time, you want to understand which one is overall a better product. So let's go through the various aspects of these two lenses one by one. I have done a review of this lens and I'm going to link to that video somewhere in the description. So let's first watch this video, then you can move to that one. I've also done a review of the 28 to 400 and you will get to see a link of that video as well somewhere in the description box. So let's begin. As an all-purpose zoom lens or for flexibility, sheer flexibility, the 28 to 400 wins. It's a super zoom. The 24 to 120 just can't do a 400 millimeters, can't reach that focal length even with a DX crop. And with the DX crop, the 28 to 400 will give you a 60 millimeters perspective. What about VR? Ouch. The 24 to 120 just doesn't have VR. The 28 to 400 wins again because it's got VR. I think you get 5.5 stops of VR, so it's got it, and it's quite good at the long end of 400 millimeters. It's quite stable. The one weakness of the 24 to 120 is that it doesn't have VR. So while Z50 users can use this 24 to 120, but you will not get VR, and the crop sensor bodies do not have IBIS in them. You're left with no stabilization. This lens, however, gives you stabilization, so this can be used even if you have a Z50 or a ZFC. What about focus breathing? Now, focus breathing is important because if you're making videos or films, you get far more distraction-free, smoother transitions between different focus points when you have a lens in a shooting with a lens that does not have focus breathing. Again on that, the 28 to 400 wins. This is 3 consecutive points, 3 consecutive wins for the 28 to 400. It's got zero focus breathing. I mean, zero. The 24 to 120 is not too bad, mind you, but it does have some focus breathing. It's not a lot. You have to really be, I think you have to be attentive if you're watching a film made on the 24 to 120. You may not notice the focus breathing happening, but then when you compare that directly with this one, the footage of this one, you will see how much smoother, how much nicer the focus changes are when it's done with the 28 to 400. What about size? Both are compact, but the 24 to 120 is compacter. It's slightly smaller, I think slightly lighter as well. You can see the size difference, right? While retracted, the 24 to 120 will take a little less space in the bag or can fit in us in a smaller bag. It's very important to talk about f-stop. The 24 to 120 is an f4 lens. It's a constant f4 lens, and it makes it a professional lens because it has constant f4. This lens wins hands down when it comes to that. No chance for the 20 to 400 that moves between f4 to f8 between 28 to 400 millimeters. It actually reaches f8 at 200 millimeters. The 24 to 120 just doesn't do that. It stays at f4. That's great. You can get more light on your full frame camera. And if you're using a crop sensor camera, the fact that you get more light is beneficial because it's a smaller sensor again. So when it comes to light and to be able to shoot with a faster shutter speed, to not have as much grain in shadows in low light situations, the 24 to 120 wins. What about flexibility at the wide end? I talked about how great this lens is, the 20 to 400, because it can reach 400 millimeters, but it starts at 28 millimeters. So if you consider that, at times when you're visiting places, grand, beautiful places, or seeing beautiful landscape or seeing beautiful architecture, you want the wide end to be wider. So, and I mean, and there's a lot of difference between 28 millimeters and 24 millimeters at the wide end. So, at the wide end, 24 to 120 wins. Let's talk about close up and macro. Both are very good, but again, the 24 to 120 wins with a 0.39 times magnification ratio. 0.39 is very good, and the 24 to 120 has that. When you're shooting food, for example, you want to get close to the food, and the things that you want to get close to and get a larger, nicer, more macro view, you can get that with the 24 to 120. Also, the macro image output of the 24 to 120 is superb. Like even wide open at f4 at 120 millimeters at the long end, the close-up shots are quite sharp, quite sharp. If you stop down to f5.6, you start getting the sharpest image reproduction. But even at f4, it's very, very sharp. Now, this leads us to talk about sharpness. The 24 to 120 again wins hands down. No more conversation on it. What about chromatic aberration, the other aspect of image quality that we should all look at? The 24 to 120 wins hands down again. No more conversations on it. What about build quality? Die. They're both so well built, to be honest. I mean, they are both externally protruding lenses, so things can go inside. But honestly, I took the 20 to 400 out in rain and storm and handled it. It handled that situation like a champ. I mean, I had no scare using this lens out there. So I think both lenses are very, very well built, and you can really trust them in most situations. But yes, if the barrel goes out and if you're in a sandy and a very dusty place, I think you should be a little more careful and probably cover it with something. But other than that, for general use, it's very good. Both are very good. What about cost? Both are affordable lenses, but I'll write the prices here. But the 28 to 400 wins by margin. But they're pretty close. It's really, the difference is not too much. So the choice shouldn't be about the actual cost, but should be about your use case and what you think about these lenses as actual products. Let's talk about a shooting scenario. What about sports and birding? Look, I'm shocked that the 24 to 400 can go to 400 millimeters on a full frame camera and to 600 millimeters on a crop sensor camera. I mean, well, obviously, but seriously, wow! I such a tiny lens, such a light lens can do birding. Imagine that. Imagine how much the other birding lenses cost. This is a fraction of those lenses in terms of price. This one wins this round, hands down. Let's talk about portraiture and wedding. The 24 to 120 easily wins because it has got that constant f4, but also it can get wide till 24 millimeters wide. I mean, which means that if you are trying to shoot a hall or a situation where you want to take a wide shot, you can go as wide as 24 millimeters. That's adequate in most situations. Also, this lens, the 24 to 120 millimeters lens, is sharper with less chromatic aberration, which means you have to, spend less time handling the problems in the image output. So this is a more professional lens because it saves time that way. It's a sharper lens, it has no chromatic aberration, so those things ensure that you are spending less time on the edit board. So I consider that this is a professional portrait and wedding lens, and it's a very versatile lens at that. Look, in conclusion, they're both all around lenses, but they're built for different purposes. I think 24 to 120 is a slightly more professional lens, slightly more all-around lens. So if you are into doing serious stuff with photography, meaning you want to earn money out of it, and then you also want to have a general all-round, all-purpose lens, you should go for the 24 to 120, and you should try and get another lens purpose built to handle the 100 millimeters to 300 500 millimeters, that focal range. Maybe the 70 to 183 from Tamron or Nikon makes a lot of sense to you. Maybe the 100 to 400, right, makes a lot of sense to you. So if you're thinking yourself if you fancy yourself as a pro or even as a semi-pro or a serious hobbyist, the 24 to 120 along with the 100 to 400 should be the two lenses you should go for if you want to actually cover the focal length of this 28 to 400. But if you're not doing that, if you're a casual photographer and if you're looking for a lens that is light, compact, affordable, can go into any point in time, you're not going to cry if you lose it because it's not that expensive. If you're looking for a hassle-free all-around lens and no one else is going to judge you but yourself, meaning that you're not depending on a client's feedback, you're not like it's nothing serious, you're not going to not get money because you missed focus or the image output is not as sharp corner to corner. No client talks like that. But there is this thing between, you want to be absolutely sure that you're using the best kit for a professional job, you go there, sacrifice the zoom range. But if those things don't matter to you, this will do what a 24 to 120 and 100 to 400 will do. This will do in just one lens within this much. On the brute quality parameters, the 24 to 120 wins. On pure versatility parameters, the 20 to 400 wins. So take your pick. I'm going to see you soon with another one. Subscribe to the channel and help me reach 6,000 subscribers in a month. I'm going to see you soon with another one soon.